Hey folks, Arlyeon here, and welcome to the first episode of Table Talk, which is us and the rest of the tabletop group being currently Sasha,
Word.
Virus,
Cool.
Hello.
Shocking.
CJ Ninja.
Hi, join my cult.
Yeah, exactly. Our buddy Shrimp slash Jack.
It's my birthday today, and they're forcing me to be here.
We
Happy
gifted
birthday.
him. We gifted him hobos. That's how we got him here.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
And Lovi.
Boodoo.
Are just gonna sort of share our thoughts on the tabletops that we're currently involved in, given that we're currently involved in the Shadows of the Demon Lord campaign and just finished doing our first adventure-y bit without any of us dying, surprisingly, and also I think by the mercy of the DM, mostly.
Probably.
Mostly.
Only slightly. I'm only partially merciful. Remember, I'm also evil.
Yeah, the plates and everything, and the barricade and the fire were...
Hey, that was fun.
The terrible, terrible fire!
For me.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, despite the start of the adventure shitting on me and, Shrimp crippling Alistair, I came out of the actual house itself pretty okay.
So did I, but I ran away at the end to get it, so.
Yeah, the smart option. You took
Yeah.
the smart option.
I think I came out pretty well.
Obviously. Yeah, you did. You only look like, I don't know, a scratching post for, a hellhound.
Yeah, and I only had 5 or 6 statuses.
Afraid and slowed and dead and more dead and decapitated.
Diseased.
Disease.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're going for actual problems, I guess.
Yeah, diseased, fatigued, incapacitated, slowed. I
Let's
think
be
he
very honest
actually
here.
had
Let's-
5 on him.
Let's be very honest. It's a good thing he has protagonist powers, or he would be so dead.
Yeah.
I mean, protagonist powers goes only so far, so it's a good thing we got... I would say we got that thing out of the basement, but then I remembered it mostly just ran us through a gauntlet of bullshit and traps, so it's a good thing, I guess, that it was a sadistic fuck more focused on killing all of us than just cooter grawing Frank and then getting stuck in a circle beating.
Yeah. It's not a stupid animal, so it's not like, I'm just gonna die. That's fine. Nah.
Like the ghoul?
The ghoul's just like,
I want to eat your face.
And then it died like a stupid animal.
yeah.
Alright, but I believe you had questions for all of us.
Yes, I did. Basically put, simple and straightforward. Since I'd like this to proceed in the best way possible, I want to know people's opinions thus far. Basically, A, what do you feel could be improved on? And whatever the opinion is, I don't really care. You could honestly say my voice is annoying if that's actually something that bothers you. Whatever.
Complain in the comments about Sasha's voice.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll come to your house and kill you. Okay, but seriously.
I don't
Yeah,
think that would ever be a complaint.
Yeah.
Well,
thank
that's
you.
the best voice.
Not good shame. In any case, so any issues you have with pacing? Do you feel like I'm leaving people on wait too long? Everybody's kind of getting too long of turns and not bouncing fast enough? Is the story going a little too quick or too slow? Does combat feel a little too mean? Sorry, because that's staying as it is. Ha 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 ha. But it's good to know if you have an issue with it, just so I can maybe target you 2% less. Ha 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 ha.
2% less.
2% less. Yeah. So out of 100 hits, you'll take only 99.
So, anyone want to take the floor first? Wouldn't it be 98?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're bad at math.
D makes gays
I'm-
do math.
I'm hungry and I'm dehydrated. Shut up. In fact, I'm
Okay.
going to solve one of those. And let's see. Who am I going to pick on? Let's start with... I'm going to roll a dice. Because I like dice. It's Alistair. You're first. Issues that you have with the game so far in any capacity whatsoever.
First level is... Or not first level, but rather level 0 feels sort of disempowering, and I feel like if you had been singularly focused on ensuring we all died, you definitely could have murdered all of us. And we basically would have been able to do jack shit about it. And I get that, like, this is supposed to be like a nihilistic sort of grimdark campaign, and so I'm glad that you didn't do that to us, but it was a very disempowering feeling at multiple junctures just for that first level. And like, my option is to flail and then flail again.
Well, you did very good flailing, to be very honest with you.
Other than that, though, like, I like the story. I like the story threads. They were pretty fine. I definitely like the way you characterize things. That we already have running gags, like fucking dumbass cat guards. I feel sorry for Shrimp, and the fact that literally police brutality was like the defining point of how, like, the second episode capped off, I think.
Oh, poor Frank.
I'm not gonna make the joke I was gonna make.
Poor Frank.
Yeah. Press F for Frank.
No.
But like, overall, I'm looking forward to the game progressing and us filling it in a bit more. I'm curious if, you know, we get on to a one-shot or different adventures, if you're going to be making adjustments to how we start the game, or if we're always going to be starting as very squishy, useless peasants.
That would honestly quite depend on the adventure in question. Certain cases, I don't want you to start useless, but in this case, it makes a lot of sense you start.
Okay. But overall, like, I'm enjoying this a lot. Just, that was my main thing, is just by design, at least from this adventure. It was admittedly a feeling of like, yeah, we're all gonna die. Hope is gone. And then we nearly did. So again, this new adventure where we're starting and we have a lot more we can do is already a really good feeling, and I'm waiting for it to crush all my hopes and dreams. Next.
Well, don't worry. It will definitely do that. Well, I should probably address one at a time.
No,
I get
that's
what you
what I meant.
mean.
It's like next person.
No, I mean, I should probably address concerns one at a time. Like you said, your
Oh.
only real concern was it felt disempowering. And I do get that. And honestly, yeah, it feels like it's a good thing that you don't feel powerful to start with, because, as you said, nihilistic, that's kind of the point of the whole game, the whole campaign, is you're fairly weak. I feel that they could do to give you a bit more identity. Like, starting out as, you're basically just a peasant. Like, everyone can do what you can do. You do get to play as basically an NPC to start with. And I don't know, even just like the slightest tweaking of any, like a level 0, like pick one alteration for your character, pick 2 alterations, something like that, to give you a bit more of a fighting chance. You know, if this is a story about people that are trying to change things, then usually those people have a little edge that gives them a bonus of some kind. Unless that bonus is just meant to be like some, what do they call it? Fortune? They usually call it karma. Yeah, unless that's meant to be the only upside you get, in which case that's fair. But yeah, it does feel like you can pretty easily get killed, even if the GM doesn't even target you. But overall,
I mean, I would agree. Like, even though it's not my turn, since I have such a similar thing to say to Arlyeon, just I didn't like the level 0 thing, and it wasn't just because of being super weak, but just the lack of choice. And that it was like, we're just the same guy, all beating things with sticks. Except some of us can read and others can't.
Yeah, that honestly kind of felt, or kind of was what I was feeling, is that it's like, okay, because most of us seem to have picked different races or different other
3
things.
of us are
like,
humans.
Oh.
And
I'm a
we're all
cat.
the same guy.
I'm a cat.
We're all slightly different, but it's not by very much. And the profession thing kind of tries to help with that, but in this first adventure, that part can't even really show up very much.
Yeah.
It did sort of for the investigation aspect, but the moment it boiled down to like the sort of air quote dungeon crawly thing, we were the same guy flailing with very slightly different stats.
Yeah, and it kind of came down to who had the best equipment out of any of us.
And the roll, who just had the best luck.
So yeah, overall, I think the game would be better if we started at level 1. But like, I like the level 0 adventure itself and all the story stuff, just not the actual starting out at level 0.
Basically, it
Yeah.
felt like you were kind of just like a blank slate, not really a very personalized character at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
There was nothing that we could do that was particularly special, really, except for Kai, because turn into cat.
Even
Oh,
that,
Delilah
like,
could set herself on fire and punch someone.
Yes, she could.
Wow.
even turning into a cat, that's not something I can like whip out because it's stated in the like backstory for Farron's that people don't like shapeshifters. So maybe don't do that in front of people.
And
So-
they're right not to like shapeshifters. I mean,
I would have to leave the area and then come back to shapeshift without getting in trouble.
Or just-
Regardless, it still gave you like a unique form of identity in the group.
Yeah.
As opposed to the rest of us, where it's kind of like, well, we kind of have character traits, but we all pretty much do things exactly the same.
Yeah, I like having more customization. I like drawing my characters too. So Kai has a very unique appearance because it was like, what is he? A peasant? He can turn into a cat. I can't draw cats. He's gonna look cool, I guess.
I also just thought of this. I find it ironic that the person who's playing the blank slate is complaining about blank slateism.
Yeah.
So to be fair, playing the blank slate wasn't even your idea, but regardless, I do like the
Wait,
fact
what?
that Miguel, he's got like a blank slate face that it's hard
Oh
to
It
read.
just
yeah, no,
ended up
sorry.
that
I was
way.
also thinking
No, it's all
about
good, it's all good.
like of Frank just because so much of his brain is gone.
No,
Stolen by
literally the guy who
fairies.
just doesn't have any defining features.
Best roll ever, and the fact that we've rolled with that and then made the running gag of you just don't have a portrait right now because you're such a blank slate, we don't recognize you yet.
He shows up to the next adventure. He's like, "Hey guys, I'm here. Who the fuck is this guy? Kill him! Kill him! Stab him!"
I feel like I know this guy.
This fucking Arlyeon or fucking Alistair just reaches out. Oh God, it's the creature! Finger of death. Just kill him.
Pull my finger.
Off. I mean, there's. Okay. Well, that was Alistair / Arlyeon. Okay, so let's just go in order. Okay. Delilah / Lovi. What are your issues with the game thus far, if you haven't?
So I was expecting some more horror aspects. Like, I really felt it in the combat, but I was expecting more out of combat.
Okay.
And I don't know, I'm just a big fan of horror, and I was like, this seems like it might have bits of it, so yeah.
Okay,
Didn't
so go
Really
ahead, Kat.
have any bits that left you feeling like slightly spooked, really.
Okay, all right. So basically, the house was a little bit like, the house kind of came at the end. It was more of an investigation. Nothing suspenseful, basically. Aside
Yeah.
from being stalked, but that's not really horror in this context.
And we didn't realize we were being stalked until in the basement. Like the big thing where it broke down to the big, like she said, the combat had the horror thing, and that was like the tail end, if I'm getting it right. Yeah.
Yes.
But the horror itself was we got attacked by a bunch of rats and inconvenienced and then fell through the floor, and it became a comedy skit. And I think the one sort of horror moment was we came across like the woman who stabbed herself with Elise's sword, and the dead, what we can assume is a cultist, probably, because he was wearing cultist robes.
Possibly.
From an order
Possibly.
of people who my grandfather would recognize, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, anyways. Probably a cultist who, had been, like, vivisected, maybe? If it was anything like what happened to Elise.
It was he was pretty ripe.
Yeah. No, I mean when the thing, because he had like the cut mark on him, so he'd probably been killed vis-a-vis like vivisection, or maybe just freshly.
He also smelled pretty bad, so he'd probably been there for a bit.
Okay, whatever. I still think like the creature fucking killed him because he had like the very precise bit of him removed.
Oh yeah, he had pieces of him missing, so most likely it was this thing, considering the state of everybody downstairs.
Yeah.
Or it was a copycat to throw you off, but you'll probably possibly find that out later. Ha 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 ha.
Ha 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 ha. Oh great, there's two of them. Clever girl, and then I die.
I didn't say that. You did. Anyways, all right. So for LSF, okay. So for Lovi, we're looking for more of a horror thing. Okay. Now, as far as the general campaign itself goes, I believe it does start to ramp up in. I'll say suspense. I admit I've only read a couple adventures in, to kind of whet my appetite for things. I don't want to know how things go exactly to the detail just yet. I want to learn kind of along with my players, as I usually do with a module, not going to lie. But as far as I can tell thus far, the actual horror aspects are more of like a growing, dawning thing over time, semi, Call of Cthulhu-esque as things start to spiral out of control. But if you are looking for more horror, kind of that, that tense suspense, things like that in general, as I've noted, I will be adding my own flavor to the module. So that is probably, yes, that is probably where you're going to be finding like horror and the like. So I'll try and blend it so it doesn't seem too obviously like, well, this is the horror aspect and that's the not horror aspect over there. Which way do you want to go? But yeah, so there should be more over time. But for now, yeah, I know what you mean, that it's not exactly very spooky to start out with until you get to the house, but that's its own thing.
Just to clarify, when you mean like your own module, and I suppose this is also partly for the audience, you're talking about where this is actually getting its name from as Windmill's Wake. Since the actual module is Tales of the Demon Lord. Crack-a-boom, thunder in the background.
Precisely. The Windmill's Wake portion is what I will be
Shit,
adding.
where did Whisper come from?
Fuck.
No.
What?
All I heard whisper and I zoned back in.
No, it's Whisper's glue now. Okay.
No. Don't assume Whisper's gone. Whisper will always be with you.
Shout out to everybody who hasn't watched our stream of Curse of Strahd.
Oh, that's even better. Don't say a thing. For reasons. Anyways. So that was 1 and 2. All right. Frank, you're next. Are there any issues that you have with the game as it stands thus far that you'd like to share?
Okay, so I think Arlyeon covered it all with the level 0 thing as far as negative things for it.
Okay. So basically kind of like level 0. Yeah, excuse me. Level 0. Pokemon! Anyways, level 0 feels disempowering, kind of takes some time. You kind of feel very generic, and then you only get to feel like your own character with options once you've almost died the first time.
Yeah, and I mean,
if you
not even the disempowering thing, because I mean, like you guys said, that's fair. It's what they want to do, but I think it needs to be done in a way that at least makes you feel more unique.
I mean, I'm glad that character gen's pretty quick, because, I mean, if we'd been playing as hardcore as we could have been, the ghoul would have just one-shot you.
Yeah.
Because instead of putting you into disabled, because Sasha was very kind to put you in disabled, he just made it a bitch to actually stabilize you and wake you up.
Yeah, that's kind of my balancing act, is I don't want to go with, hey, you've been hit for this much damage, you die immediately. Because that really sucks, for you guys at least. But on the other hand, the idea of, yeah, you just go down to 0 and anyone can make an intellect check to snap you awake at any point in time, that just feels too lenient. So I'm going for kind of an in-between.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I got to stabilize your ass, and then you had time to sit there, and you also passed your checks, and then I got to make an intellect check to wake you up after, like, I think a tense minute or two of us just getting our shit ruined by the creature passed.
Pretty much.
Cries.
Then in that case, next on the list, Kai / CJ Ninja / Vic / various other names.
I have so many names. Hi.
Some that only the wind and the trees can pronounce. But anyways, what issues do you have with the game thus far?
I mean, besides the genericness, because I like, if my characters are too generic, then I get disinterested pretty easily.
Mhm.
So I'm glad we didn't stay at level 0 for any more games, because I probably would have been like, ugh, dying.
You want to be a cat the whole time just to make it more interesting.
Honestly, that's
Meow,
what
meow.
I did in the house, because I was kind of like, I'm bored. Well, guess we're gonna be a cat now.
Time to be a fila. Oh, I have to make the joke. I apologize for this. You got bored, so you pussied out.
Wow. But now we know the real reason why she wanted to be able to use backstab while she was a cat. It's just so she could hang out as a cat more.
Oh yeah, that's been my plan the entire time. Day 1,
So
be a
that-
cat as much as possible.
Oh wow. Where do you know where Kai got trained?
Where?
At an academy.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Guys, if we have a different DM next game, it's because I went to Canada and killed.
That pun was felonious.
Oh my god.
And I killed Arlie.
Do it. We deserve it. Okay.
Yeah, perfect
And-
moment of puns aside.
This is a catastrophe.
Oh god. We're being punished.
I'm gonna
gonna
just
serve
flee
you.
to Kathmandu now.
Just escaping from the oncoming cataclysm.
Okay. Stopping
I'm gonna
this
go
now.
into a catatonic shock.
No,
if we don't
we're
stop
done.
it.
We're done. Okay. Seriously. So Kai, so you said, like, aside from that, was there more beyond that? Like, you did have.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
just not the character. What am I trying to say? The turn order. I don't like. Maybe I just need some getting used to it, but having things like turns switch around, like I don't know if it showed up in the recording actually or not, but I kind of have a hectic household. So for the giving context to the people watching, so not like it's like, oh, Alistair's going. That means I go in 2 turns instead of having to be like, okay, who took a fast and a slow turn today? How many things do we have to fight? It's just a lot more like math, I guess. And D&D make gays do math. I don't like math.
I see what you mean, but also like the so you like having to be able to time out like, okay, I have to go here, but if we go, I don't want to go first because whatever reason, so we're having you go first, and you're like, wait, what? No, or we end up, yeah.
So
one of those interesting situations where having more choices and more flexibility actually becomes more of an issue for you.
yeah, I like the ease
structure.
I like everybody rolled their number. Okay, this is everybody's number. Have fun. That we've used for initiative normally in D&D 5e.
That's fair, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't feel there's a whole lot that can be done about it by the system's standards. Like you could, for example, just say like, okay, so if you're taking, say, fast turns or slow turns, then you could always have, say, like a set order for who goes. So for example, we could have it so if anyone taking a fast turn, it always goes, say, like Alistair, Delilah, Frank, Kai, Miguel, and then anybody on a slow turn, anybody who has Liette to act goes in that order. But that still honestly probably wouldn't help too much because you'd still be switching between fast and slow turns. So
And the other part is, I think that we'd lose some of the flexibility we might get where a situation where it really benefits to have someone else go first.
Like
what I was going to
see
get to
the
next.
upsides. It's just like something I'm having to get used to because in every other, I've only played it in a couple systems, but they both have just like generic turn orders.
Yeah, I gotta say, this system definitely has a system for initiative that I haven't seen before, and I do like that. I'm personally a fan. I'm still not entirely used to it yet, but I do like how it goes. But I can understand how, like, yeah, we just have our numbers. We know the order we go in can be like really familiar and really simplistic.
Yeah, because like in Barovia, like I'll go and then I'm like, okay, I have 5 people. I need to go check on this thing, so I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I do that a lot, but I think it should be fine household wise. It's just something that I'm going to have to not zone out as much, which I have a tendency to do when we're fighting like 20 people.
Well, thankfully, you don't usually fight as many in this system, specifically because I have outlawed certain necromancy spells because, oh my god, no.
Yeah, I think it was
especially
necromancy
you
and
know-
time magic.
Yeah, especially if you know how to munchkin. Right, Arlie?
Why are you accusing me? Oh, also, order magic, time magic, and being a clockwork.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, you're just like, no.
Bypassing that entirely. For anyone listening, Arlie and I have been friends for a good while now, and we kind of have an understanding. We're both aware that he likes to be able to munchkin things, to be able to kind of min-max himself, gets like not strictly to the point of I have to be the best at everything, but get a lot of benefit out of things. But he accepts that he's not going to go too far, and we both accept that I'm not going to have to tell him he can't. Yeah.
And I end up telling him what I discover.
Exactly. He just straight out says, okay, so I'm going to go this far, and here's the thing. And I go, yeah, that's good enough. Or no, you're going a touch far, tone it down a bit. Just so you know, this game has a lot of exploits, and you can get some really crazy shit going on.
There's so many things to keep track of, though.
Like 20 actions in a turn or something crazy like that. Just so you know, Virus, it is disgusting. Another thing that we talked last night.
Before going too far into that, I do want to get through the general loop.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 5th, okay. Oh, no, wait, sorry. Not done addressing Kai yet. One thing we could do, like, that might help you, Kai, in general, or Vic, or CJ, or whatever.
Whatever. We'll just list all my names in the description.
I'm just going to call you Vic. It's easier for me.
Okay.
So, one thing that we could do, because you generally like to have an idea of when you're going to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the thing to focus on for you, I feel for now, is just fast turn or slow turn. Because if you're going fast turn, basically pay attention for just long enough, stick around. Fast turn, since PCs go first, you're always going to be going relatively quickly, and then you can basically just bugger off because everyone else is going after you.
Okay. That's good to keep in mind if I have something.
Exactly. And if you're going slow turn, then basically you at least have see how many people are taking fast turns, obviously. And you can kind of judge from there, all right, I have maybe like a minute or I have maybe 2 minutes. Because fast turns, again, are pretty fast. So whichever role you take, you'll either be going really shortly or be going shortly after that.
Okay. Yeah, I will probably keep that in mind better. It's just a lot. Also, the other thing I have just in general with the system, not the game, I was trying to, for more context, I was trying to learn how to play this game like last minute. And also, when I had 3 tests that week, I was sick, and I also had my dad coming into town or something.
He's like, oh my god, I don't want to do math right now.
Arlie kept messaging me, like, you want to come set up your character? And I was like, dude, I have 3 essays due this week, I can't. And
if there's one thing that Arlie is, it's reliable. Arlie's just like, okay, I will help you out as much as you need it. You can guarantee that.
Yeah, but I think I pushed it off to like the last week.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm just saying that if you want to get into this game, it's a lot, and you need to be aware of that and set aside like a month.
I mean, it is and it isn't. If you take the base system without the supplements, because the other half of this was she had access to every single supplement that exists, which...
All right, so to kind of summarize what all this has meant, in case someone isn't following along, basically, the base game is actually not that hard to get. The base game is, it's got some definite differences, but if you're at all familiar with, say, like D&D 5th Ed or something like that, you're going to see a lot of similarities. You go for your armor class, which is called your defense. You've got your, you got your D20, you got your small modifiers here, yada yada. It's not really that bad. It has a lot of extra flavor that you can get through the supplements, which can like really spice things up. Not to say the degree of, say,
Pathfinder.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, here you go, have 700,000 books and take one thing from each to build your character. But there's definitely a lot more variety you can get with the supplements. I agree that maybe we should have started with some more basic stuff for the basic people early, but I guess this will help people in the long run because they will have more options. So it's not a bad thing, but
Yeah.
just be aware of what you're getting into if you are going to start with the supplements as opposed to just the base game.
Also, if you're not going to just like roll, because you can just make characters purely randomly by rolling a bunch of tables, and then you just have a character made in like a minute.
I also would say that level 0 characters are the easiest thing in the world to make and take you no time to learn.
That's true, actually. So that's one upside to the generic kind of, you know, hey, I am the same as everyone else. Like the blank sheet characters, it takes about what, like literally a minute to make, and that's even if you put some effort into it. It's like the hardest thing you'll have to do with making a level 0 character is make your backstory.
And names.
And pick a name.
Yeah.
It gets harder at level 1, especially if you're a mage, because then you have to pick your tradition or like a cleric and like what cantrip you're getting or whatever.
Exactly. Well, that's all at level 1, right? So.
Yeah, which
then it gets worse.
That's
at level
honestly
3.
That's honestly probably why it got really difficult for Kai at first, because in talking with you about this system as well, we were charting out things to level 10. Which is like level cap, and it's like here's this flood of options, and it's like, oh my god, just stop talking for a second.
Yeah, so Arlyeon really likes this game and has been wanting to play it for ages, so each time he talks about it, it's just like vomiting information at us.
Really, I believe charged.
I believe the first time I heard about this game was what, 2015, 2016, something like that?
It was when I first got the book. And then I just kept
2015, I think I was still in grade school, like middle school.
So I say, like, of anybody here, realistically speaking, not even I am as enthusiastic about this game as Arlie is. Arlie's just like, man, I know I know the classes I want to go for. I'm going to chart my route up to level 10. I know the max AC I can get.
2015.
Mm-hmm.
The date is on the book.
Don't get me wrong.
So
I
Arlie,
like charting out things.
Yeah,
but when I'm still figuring out the thing and haven't even had a chance to fully dive into the book, and you're talking about options like 7 levels out, I was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm just going to smile and nod.
If I say, Arlie's definitely there to help you out if you need him. Like, I'm pretty sure he can help all of you better than I can for stats and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And that's in zero way a joke. Just be aware that he will have all the options for you.
Yeah, for context, I needed to play like the Farron the cat one. I didn't have that much of a choice. And then he was like, "Oh, we need this, or you could do this to maximize your damage, or you could do that, and this at level 5 you could do this or this." And I was like, "Dude," because we play Town of Salem a lot, and so he would be talking about it while we were playing, and I was just like, "Dude, I just want to relax.
I just want to not be hanged."
To play Town of Salem, I just want to relax. These two things don't go together.
Sure they do. One is just about I may die, I may not. The other one is about
You're gonna die, but when?
I mean, they both have their salt.
Oh yes.
Everything has salt.
That's also true. Okay. Now let's see. Where is the so that's that. And Miguel, what are your issues with the game to date?
So I think pretty much Arlyeon Shrimp basically covered it with the blank slate problem.
Okay.
There wasn't too many particular times where I felt any particular bit different or useful, aside from like, I think it was this most recent episode where I went to, or no, it was the episode before this last one where I actually went to like the potion seller and was like, "Hey, I'm totally this guy. Why don't you tell me what the fuck this potion is?"
And do it at a cheap price. All right.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh,
so
right. That reminds
and
me.
that was almost because I like forcibly was like, "I'm a con man. I'm going to convince him that I am not this."
well, to be fair, I do advocate for this. Like, one thing I always like to do with my players personally is, as much as you want to bring things like your backstory into things, as much as you want to bring in like what your profession is, I'm generally willing to roll with things just because why wouldn't you? Like, that's why you have that profession. That's why you have that backstory, to make things more fun for everyone, yourself and the GM included. Like, if you want to, like, the more you want to con people, the happier I'll be. And just be aware that I'll be keeping track of who you con. So even if you're pretty forgettable, someone will remember eventually, because that's just fun.
Semi-side note, by the way. I would tell the church about his little business, and yeah, he might be interested in doing business.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
I never said that they would do business. I was just
yeah, it's just like I said. I tell them they can
Truisms.
do it if they want. I'd say like you have
it's a
like
very special kind of con, one where you actually tell the truth, so that if they really want to get mad at you, you can't really, or you can just be like, "What? I told you I'd tell them. I never said that they were going to do it."
What did I promise? I promised to tell them. That's
I promised that I would tell them about your shop and that you're an outstanding gentleman. I did that.
They then
Doesn't mean
decided
they're going to do anything with you.
they then decided to tell me I'm an idiot and laughed me off. So sorry.
Finger guns. Bye.
So yeah, but like yeah, so if you want to, like I said, if you want to do some con stuff, like please do. It adds so much more flavor. Trust me, the GM is just waiting for you to do anything like that at any point in time. If Kai wants to spy on people as a cat, you go for it, guy. I was gonna say girl, but you're a guy, right?
We're just gonna go gender neutral. I have too many characters.
You go for it.
Yeah, you go, individual.
You go for it, putty tat.
Go for it, Sylvester. But like, yeah, if you want to spy on people as a cat, that's a great idea. If you want to, like, what's your general profession? You are beyond a criminal, obviously.
I think I was con artist. I had a merchant business which failed, and I also get kids to adopt me as a cat. So then when everybody's gone, I steal their stuff.
I'd say that's part of con artist, but yeah, like you can sell things and the like if like you'd be probably the person to go to for knowing prices, for example, because you were a merchant, you had to know all these sorts of things. So if you want to bring that up as part of your backstory and your profession, like go for it. If we're gonna go with like Alistair, a scholar, but you also know certain creepy things, and of course you've already been trying to use that in game, and sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. But then again, we've played together for a while, so you already know to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like Lovi, you've got so much creepy cult knowledge. So like all the various things that being in that kind of cult could give you an upside on, like maybe you happen to know where certain kinds of people live. Maybe you happen to know certain people who are in bad ways right now and could easily be exploited or talked to, things like that. You got to strike while the iron's hot, but it doesn't mean you don't like them sit for a while. Like anything like that you want to use or go with just makes the game that much more flavorful. I can add things on my own. I can add things from the module. I can bring things in like earlier, or I can just make stuff up on the fly. Like, just that's I feel ultimately, by the way, like thinking on this blank slate thing, that's probably what they wanted. Is for initially your stats to be very samey, very generic, very NPC. And most of your flavor just to come from personality, which is why the level up system kind of has it so when you do take your first profession, when you level up for the first time, it's based on your experiences and what you did. Like that's actually what it even said is it should make sense that like if you were casting spells, maybe you learn how to be a mage. If you were trying to be really good and help people, maybe you're like a cleric. Or if you were just running in and bashing people with your very generic NPC level stick, maybe that's where you're going to be a warrior from. Again, I'm not sure that addresses all the issues that you've brought up in that regard.
I was about to say, like, oddly enough, most of the blank slateness problems really only came up in combat, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like you can apply, personality traits to all the like professions and all the other stuff you get to your background, and that's all well and good, but the sameness came into combat where it's just like, okay, we're gonna just slap each other for a bit until one of us is no longer moving.
Everybody roll your dice. The highest number wins.
No. Sasha. Purses.
Purses?
The purses.
What happened? Yeah. How the first combat was resolved. Whoa! And then,
Smack in the back of the head.
yeah.
Like that's true of most D20 systems or any system really, is that there's always the chance for your rolls to just be shit and things to go south really quickly.
Well,
But
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. You're not gonna find that much different for the next 5 levels.
That's what I meant. Is that it's like this one in particular, it's a lot of like, oh, you don't really have a very good shot of hitting anything, and
Yeah.
everything has a good shot of hitting you. It kind of feels like I haven't personally played it, so I can't fully say, but it kind of feels like if Call of Cthulhu was just slightly more fair in the combat situation.
I have played Call of Cthulhu. This is still a lot friendlier.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like it's just a step above combat friendliness for Call of Cthulhu, because Call of Cthulhu, it's like, here's this thing. I go to fight it. You die. I haven't even rolled yet. You die.
Oh, actually,
It looks at you. Your brain explodes.
actually, even for human targets, there's things like, oh, you got a critical success. Your weapon is stuck inside the enemy. That is Call of Cthulhu. This is a good 2 or 3 steps still above Call of Cthulhu, because it was very mean, even in success in combat.
It's like, yeah, you
I
killed
run
him
away.
immediately, but now you don't have a weapon.
No, it's
And-
like, I run
that's
away.
right.
It's funny that you think you can run.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
don't
funny
worry.
you think
In,
that.
in Shadows of the Demon Lord, you can run a couple more steps.
Thanks,
Run around the
Sasha.
corner, turn into a cat, and then they can't tell that it was you. And then you're
Yeah.
free.
That's it.
Yeah, especially
funny
not.
The
It-
funnier part is almost like, okay, if you set up where it's, like, let's say we ended up getting outside and that creepy spider bug man thing was like chasing after us.
Mhm.
You literally run away. He uses his action to move. He uses his free thing to like move closer and then take a swing at you, and then everybody just groups up on him and starts beating the shit out of him.
You see, that's the thing. I'd actually considered having him sprint and try and do the assassin thing, like to run. Like I thought, okay, what would be a good idea for how this guy would act? But I mean, honestly, we were talking before we turned this thing on, and realistically speaking, this guy can move himself around very easily and do hit and run tactics. So I figured a smart enemy like that can do this would not be the kind to do that, to run in and be like, aha, I'm just going to kill your one helpless friend and then let all of you guys with sticks beat the shit out of me.
And actually, the moment he was outside and set the house on fire, he couldn't stay because the entire crowd would have fucking killed him, because everyone was pouring out of the houses because a building caught fire in the middle of town.
Which reminds me, something you all get to know, and I'm making a note of this now so I don't forget about it. Just so you know, there were a few more disappearances from the people gathered at the fire.
Figured.
Awesome.
Of course there were.
I mean, hey, no one was paying attention to anything except the big blazing flame, so...
All right. On the con artist note, though, and this is the thing I guess we might want to start the next adventure off as something silly. Remember that big fancy sword I got?
The green one?
Yeah, I'm asking this to Virus, though. Remember that?
Yeah.
It is totally not magical. And I can confirm this doubly because I can now sense magic on things. It's totally mundane, so I was going to ask you to help me run a con to sell it as a magic sword to someone unwitting. We gotta get money somehow, man.
Though, one thing to note, Miguel,
Yeah.
I open up your character sheet for me if you could.
Okay. It's already open.
All right, go to your main and look on the side and just kind of scroll down, look on the right.
It's a
Uh-huh.
Rickroll.
Just a link to a Rickroll.
It'll have arrows pointing at it.
Yeah, there's
No, like,
nothing there.
like in main.
Oh,
then
there we go. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, that's a very similar color.
Yep.
Just so you know, like your character would immediately be able to look at this and go, "That's a really similar color."
Yep. I already
As in,
figured.
like,
Okay.
should keep it or should not keep it?
Yeah, that's up to him to tell you when the game actually starts. We shouldn't actually
Good
confirm
point.
it just yet.
Spoilers. So that all said then, any other notes you want to finish this, I guess, this preliminary episode of Table Talk. I actually liked the first adventure a lot.
I did like it.
I do like the first adventure. The only thing that I kind of got caught up with is like we as a group kind of just mess around a lot.
Yeah.
That just happens.
No, I know. It happens in every single game. There's really no helping it. It just kind of was one of those, like, at certain points, it just felt like it dragged because it's like, okay, we've got this thing that we should be going to do. And then it was like 6 people immediately just like, no, don't do that.
Run the other way immediately.
Run the other way, even though there's absolutely no indication to our characters that we should run the other way. It's like, you guys.
Well, thankfully, that's also, I feel that's kind of something you can't get away from, especially in the first episode of basically anything, because at that point in time, you guys didn't even know each other. Like it was enough to try and get a bunch of strangers to kind of arrive at the same place and not murder each other, right? Choir Boy and Silver Spoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it had been Kai that had been unconscious, I feel Alistair would have still healed them, but it would have been like dragging his heels to do so, and the
Just
temptation
being really smug about it.
Oh, super smug, and
God.
had he been dropped in the basement and we'd had the option of like engaging the fucking thing that dropped us or barricading the basement and just setting it on fire, that would have been a very hard choice to make.
I find it funny how much our characters dislike each other, just juxtaposed against Barovia, because that's the only other game I've played with you guys.
Yeah.
You gotta understand, Miguel doesn't hate
It's
any
a
of
thing,
you. Technically, Tulio.
I mean, I actually feel like Alistair has good rapport with Frank, who he also feels sympathy for. But also, like, Tulio, because Tulio/Miguel, since he actually at least knows Miguel's name and recognizes him most of the time, has to squint and get close, but, recognizes him most of the time. Like, he has respect for you because you're also, like, a fellow pursuer of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then there's Kai.
Kai's doing what he can. I mean, he also was trying to figure out how to steal from you the first game. But that was the first game.
To be entirely fair, Tulio feels Kai is basically just like the I'm not going to do anything of the group.
He's been trying to help. He just doesn't want to die. Thanks.
I mean,
But he did go and get help.
Doesn't want to die, decides, like, yeah, you did help out the one time, and he's like, okay, so you are helping, you just suck at helping.
I mean, I think Kai actually did manage to clock the ghoul when we were circle beating it.
Yeah.
She just like, parkour. Oh, I said she. He parkoured up there and stabbed it in the face. But
it's just like some of the things we had, like carrying people. I have a -1 strength, and I was like, it might be better for me just to go try to get help at this point in time.
That's definitely one thing that I find I do like about this game a bit more than D&D, just outright, is the fact that because your stats don't go up and down that much, especially early level, it resolves one of the biggest problems I have with D&D, which is since everybody gets such high specialized skill checks, there's no reason for anyone except for the one person who is the most specialized to do anything. Like, agreed. Kai definitely does not have high strength, so it's a better idea for someone like the guard to try and pick somebody up. But they only have a 2-point difference on you, and that's a city guard.
Yeah.
So like,
I know Silver Spoon doesn't like me. I can mostly rely on Delilah, but I can rely on Frank.
Yeah, and like there was already people down there, and like I'm just saying, like, for example, if you were downstairs, you probably wouldn't feel in Barovia, for example, you'd probably sit there and go, well, I'm going to let Mode carry it, and if not, then Rurik, and they can do all the heavy stuff because I'm a weak mage.
That's true.
Whereas
also I play Victoria.
Exactly. It's like, what am I going to do? Break a nail? Fuck you. But in this game, it's like, well, you have a -1 strength, but you don't feel like, well, everyone else has so much better skills. Why not just make them do it?
Yeah, I mean, like, literally, Alistair, who ended up carrying Frank, has the same
Has a
strength as
yeah.
you.
Well, it was just kind of like also Kai as a character isn't very trusting, so he's like, you all are
yeah.
fighting, and I don't know if I could trust Silver Spoon over there and maybe Tulio to keep me alive, so I'm just gonna go get the guard because they think I'm cute when I'm a cat.
I mean, Sealy, not blaming you at all, and the self-preservation definitely makes sense in like a grim horror tabletop, and it's sort of neat to see how the characters act when the chips are down. Like, I like, honestly, as sort of a defining point, I felt that was a really good highlight of like Barry's respect for Frank, and also like the fact that he's not quite as shitty a person as he would make himself out to be by being like sort of aloof, because he's like very fixated on like, I need to find my niece, and very little is as important as that.
Let me
sounds
shove
different.
over this choir boy with
Yeah.
my staff.
Because the one guy is like broken mentally, and the one lady who could have helped you is dead. So you now have much less than you had before, and you have no idea how to find your niece.
Which leaves me and like, honestly, without that, he's just very lost right now, and has spent the last
Very
Very-
lost.
God damn it, guys. But he's like spent the last month like throwing himself into like studies and stuff, and fussing and trying to figure out what might be a lead, but otherwise just not really being in a good place. And like, I think the other part there was a good definition, was just him and Tulio actually getting along, because like he actually like implicitly trusts Tulio, which, you know, Celia, you're like, is that really the wisest thing to do?
Yeah.
But like,
hey, he's not a liar per se. He always just has something that will benefit him.
I totally do feel, though, that you ought to pull me on some cons so I know more than purses. Because quite frankly, we get along well.
Oh yeah, Kai's like, really? The criminals gonna trust the noble?
And vice
And
versa.
vice versa.
Yeah.
Although,
So
and
we-
like, Delilah just like ran off and was like, bitch, please. And literally spooked the thing out of there. Because it's like, burn, push her in fire. Shrug. I'm gonna fuck you
Lol
up
noob.
now. I was just like, okay, no, I just fail my morale and I get out there. It's just like, no.
Speaking of the characters' relationships are going, Frank finally got Delilah to say a word to him by bringing up her husband Kai.
Oh my god. Oh my god, just
I
that
can't
whole thing.
believe
That
Like,
was
it
also
was
entertaining.
hilarious.
the best result
I
of a
love
failed
that.
check.
Like, in character, Kai's like an angsty teen over that, but like as a character, that's the best thing.
Though what I was originally getting to with that was, sometimes it felt like people were running off to do things, had clear ideas. The hard part for any beginning, unless you start as a party, like in D&D, you can just be like, yeah, we're a bunch of hardy adventurers looking for adventure. There we go. And you have your thing. But in this case, we had to bring you all together, get you to start semi-trusting each other, because trust wasn't happening, but semi-trusting, working with each other, getting a common goal, that sort of thing. So it's understandable, of course, that to begin with, you're not going to have the best direction. You're going to be running off to do different things and the like. I feel that now that you all kind of had that base connection for the next adventure, I'm sure there's still going to be some messing around, because that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
But it'll be a lot easier, for instance, to start off with. I won't have to be, okay, so you over there, you find a notice on the bounty board, and you're told by your friend in the guild, and you have a prophetic dream, and you just kind of feel like walking this direction, and you're being chased by the guard, and they're kicking you in the ribs repeatedly, Frank, so you have to run over this way. It can just be like, if something happens that's a problem, because you all, had that shared experience, that shared problem, and now you have a shared enemy, because you all know none of you are stupid. You all know that thing isn't dead. It knows all of your faces. It knows what all of you sound like, and most likely it can get around, and it knows that you know. And it's fast, and it can hide itself pretty well. So you now have that shared enemy and that shared fear of being like killed in your sleep.
I now picture a very, very funny moment where like Tulio/Miguel just comes across the thing and it's like, you, I know you. Who are you?
It's sneaking up behind him to stab him in the throat. It's got its fucking scalpel there. It leans over him and it's, is this the right target?
No, it'd be funnier if I just hear that out the corner, or like hear that like whispering over there and I look over and there's just some random generic dude that got stabbed in the throat.
And you see the thing standing over him. It's like, vengeance is mine. And you're just like, oh, now I'm going to throw a dagger into your face.
I think the other part would be, oh, wait, those eyes.
They're
not
wrong!
So pretty.
Yes.
I know we've gone on pretty long already, but do we have time to go over the things we liked about the game, since we've already covered the things we didn't like?
I think we can go something fairly quick. Basically, like try and keep it to like a minute and a half or so, but like anything that you particularly specifically enjoyed, feel free to mention. And we'll go in the same order, starting with Alistair/Arlyeon.
Honestly, I really love the flavor of the game. The start, as I mentioned, had my stuff, but where it goes from there is really neat. The way that you can customize and snap together a lot of different sort of character things. It makes it very easy to be like a pure fighter or a fighter thief or a fighter thief mage, cleric, what have you. I'm looking forward to a lot of the horror insanity elements as they pop up. And I'm distinctly looking forward, because of my familiarity with Sasha, for where his story elements are going to go during the game and where they might go past the point of the actual module. Because I imagine that the way he's going to run things, provided we don't just, all fucking wipe or destroy the world or just pop open a demon that annihilates the entire crossings off the face of the earth and leaves a crater.
Yeah, please don't do that. That would really upset my my plans.
I imagine that there will be stuff that goes past the campaign or runs concurrently, so we might get to dabble in the Paragon powers, and that opens up some very interesting stuff for all of the different class paths, so I'm super excited. Yeah, I don't know. Also, I've really, one last thing, I've really enjoyed playing with the rest of you folks. It's been a lot of fun, especially because the character friendships interactions aren't just very cut and dry. It's good. Conflict can be good.
Conflict is almost always good. I'm not gonna lie. It just depends on who it's good for.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly me.
Thanks, Sasha.
We know, Sasha.
Okay, Delilah/Lovi. How about you? Anything you particularly like, or just kind of?
I had thoughts and then I forgot them. Like I had thoughts way back when I was talking about the dislikes, and then I just totally blanked.
Do you want us to loop back to you?
Yeah.
All right. Well then, next in line is Frank Diaz/Shrimp.
All right, so I think the first thing I'd say I really liked was the Rude Boys. I think
Oh, don't worry. There's more of them to come too. Spoilers.
Awesome, because they were like the best thing so far. I was laughing the whole time with them, especially the part where he was like, "Oh, you want to talk to our boss, huh?" And he's like, and walks around in the circle. He's like, "Oh, it's not here. I guess it's out of here." And then the second thing I liked was more concerned with the game, which was all the tables for making your backstory.
That is really good. I like that.
That is great.
The interesting things are neat.
Yes, they are. I haven't even gotten a chance to use them yet, and oh boy. Well, except for Alistair's, of course. But
that was the only one I didn't like, because I rolled a crappy one. It was like a jar of saliva or a scar or rotten chicken parts. I was like, I guess a scar.
Oh, don't worry, don't worry. I'll bring that back into play too.
Which
I have so
actually,
many-
yeah, which actually the scar did go into my backstory, and yeah, I pretty much rolled everything for Frank. All of his backstory is things I rolled and just put my own slight spin on it. Like I rolled like he had a loss that haunts him still, and he's he's a member of the cult of the New God, and you know he has an unseemly scar, and so that all built the backstory completely.
which is cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so yeah, that's it.
Fair enough. Kai, how about you?
I mean, I guess the one thing about the basic Jin is that we had to come up with personalities. So that's how the like Silver Spoon and Choir Boy thing happened really easily. And I really like that. And there's more things to keep track of, but I think the whole corruption and insanity counter things are kind of cool, just so even though I don't like them.
You won't like them more as they rise, but yeah. Oh, you know what? I think the way you put that, let me kind of rephrase something I said earlier. The part about the blank slate character sheets and making up for it with personality. I think what I was trying to say there was more of, unfortunately, something you'll find is a lot of the time people who are say newer to these games, say like D&D and the like, will kind of fall back on their character class for their personality if they don't have experience making characterization or backstories and things like that. And I understand that can be like a good comfort thing. Like, well, obviously I have skills to do with thieving. I'm a thief. It's what I do. I steal things. But that doesn't help you characterize. So I do like the fact that because it's also blank slate, that like people who are inexperienced and like can get the experience of starting out with a character and be like Frank brought up there, the fact that it's so good with the backstory customization, like that you can just you can make up your own or just roll completely on these dice or do both at the same time. It's phenomenal for helping people create a character as opposed to, well, this is me. I am wizard. I do wizard castings. That is my personality. Like, that's always so frustrating to see. So that's really nice the way they get personalities in there.
And also, I like Sasha as our DM because Sasha's a DM.
Oh, well, thank you.
Also, all the snarky voices.
I look forward to the return of the Rude Boys in a coming adventure.
Snark, snark,
snarf. Miguel.
Yes. I actually am a big fan of how the combat is set up in this game, even with the like your chances to hit are basically just slap fighting. I like the turn order system that they have in place because it just seems to flow better in my opinion.
Yeah, I do like the I do like how varied, like how much flexibility it gives you.
Yeah.
Varied.
Yeah.
it really does put up a big thing of like, well, you've got something next to you. Are you wanting to just is the enemy going to try to run away? Because if they are, they're going to die. Because they're going to take slow action and everyone else is going to go before them. Yep. But conversely, if you're taking slow action, you're probably going to die.
It definitely it gives that a bit more flavor to it. Like, you have that choice all the time. Like, do you just want to do what you need to do immediately? Can you spare only taking one action? Like, versus like, how quickly do you need to act? Like, and the fact that PCs first, enemies second. It does take away some of the mean things you could do, but honestly, in a game like this, that's probably for the best. Because if enemies could just go before you constantly, like fast enemies is like, hey there, buddy, I'm going to stab you 3 times in the liver and kick you off a cliff. Bye. Yeah. Now I just have to do that with assassination. I mean, nothing.
Sasha, there's enemies that actually can act and like just interrupt people with actions. Yeah. They're horrible. Anyways.
You say horrible. I say haha.
But no, it's really neat for the tactical thing too, because there's a lot of table talk in a lot of D&D games, and players can get these great ideas, but they get completely thrown under the bus. And we had this example that happened recently in the D&D Curse of Strahd thing of, I would get healed.
Referencing.
I would get healed, my character would become conscious, I would get knocked back out and lose my turn. And so I'd get healed and brought up like twice in a row, basically, and dropped right when it was going to be my turn. And then
Because the enemy just wanted to take you out.
And it took me literally playing possum to be able to actually act.
I was about to say that's something that came up in D&D game that I'm in too. Like my character is supposed to be the tank, and like every single enemy both usually acted before him because his dex is garbage, and they all had AoE spells basically. So it's like he's not even really soaking the damage. He'd get knocked out, the cleric would res him with like 8 HP. They'd cast another spell that did like 26 damage. He'd go down again.
Yeah.
And it just was like, on your turn, make a death saving throw. Hopefully I roll a 20 so I can actually do something.
Hopefully.
I don't like 20s anymore.
Oh boy.
We'll explain later, Virus.
Let's
You'll get a
later.
kick.
Oh, it's so good. Okay.
I'm so salty.
So looping around, all right, back to Delilah / Lovi. Has it returned to you?
Yeah, so I really liked how the lack of traditional choices in combat forced us to be more creative. Like, even though we couldn't really do much, it made situations a lot more interesting, I found. Like, it felt bad because we felt a bit trapped in it, but
We were the Three Stooges.
looking back on it, it wasn't that bad.
I also think, like, adding on to that, it meant that we had to lean on the combat actions a bit more, and those popped up a couple times. And if I think it was Miguel Virus, you tried to disarm the thing, right? And failed.
Yes.
But like, if you had disarmed it, I feel that would have really changed how combat would have went.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have stabbed you. It would have immediately started going for the alternative methods of throwing buckets of glass into your faces and trying to burn you alive. But it
But
wouldn't
it
have been
probably
able.
would have ran around like, fuck this, burn.
Oh yeah, exactly. It wouldn't have had the comfort of knowing that it could have stabbed you in the face.
Yeah, which would have vastly improved our chances of like running after it and ganking its ass.
Which this also could be like a mild thing, because I was perusing through it while we were talking and stuff, and it's like, oh, the book actually specifically says that you have, like different attack options, and I'm just so used to D&D where it's like, oh yeah, you just hit things.
Roll your to hit in the face button.
Yeah, I because I remembered it a while ago, but I'm just
Where
so shit
one
at
thing that would have
combat.
been very useful in that situation, mostly, would have been the knock its dumbass prone.
Yes, it would. Though I believe you can do like a charge attack. There's some rules in D&D for that, but it's not so presented properly.
Yeah, as I'd say, D&D
You can
has
stick
like
to the form in D&D.
D&D has like shove attacks, and you can technically I think you can technically try to spend your action to just knock something prone. Kind of.
Does it? Because there's a class that is entirely like attacks like that, or maneuvers and stuff.
Well,
Which-
I think like the big thing
Oh,
is when you
5e,
knock
yeah.
them prone in 5th ed, like you don't do any damage. So you would basically spend your action just tripping it.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, this one is, I believe, you can actually trip them during an attack. You just roll with a bane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, mind you, you're probably not going to hit at level 0 against anything that isn't just a normal dude.
I
And
mean,
even then,
since you had a weapon, you didn't have a bane with trying to disarm. You just had to get against the higher thing of their strength or agility. Cries.
well, I more meant the trying to knock it prone would
Oh,
have been
that.
like, it would have been like, oh, roll negative 1d6.
Just keep in mind, they can also do that to you.
Yep.
I know.
I actually doesn't seem to do damage if you use the combat maneuvers.
We're getting off topic. We wanted to wrap this
Okay.
up with
All right,
positive
so
things.
actually, Sasha, you upsides and downsides as a DM, and yeah.
Actually, believe it or not, I have been. I was already thinking of those, and I sprinkled them in amongst all of your comments.
Oh,
I've been playing you like a goddamn fiddle. I was telling you all my thoughts the entire time.
valid.
Basically, the idea being like, I do agree that the initiative system is weird, but I do really like it. It's very flexible. It gives you a lot of options. I do dislike the fact that it feels like blank slates in combat, but the only thing I was keeping to kind of bring up at the end was the thing Lovi just brought up, which is while it is blank slates, I brought up earlier that it does force people to make actual characters and rely on that instead of just my punch stat. Because I'm sorry, but D&D 5th Ed, it's like, hey, who doesn't put all their points into that one stat they need to do the thing they need the best?
Which is why I have 10 AC.
Yeah. And if you're lucky with your rolls, if you even use rolls, then you can kind of branch out. But other than that, it's just I put all my points into the one thing. So I do like the fact that this makes you, as Lovi said, be a lot more creative with, okay, so I can just do the same shit as everybody else right now. What else can I do to turn the situation my advantage? So I like that. Like the lethality is pretty brutal, but you know, you guys got pretty lucky last time. Even the 2 times it did stab Bundy, it did somebody like 3 damage.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. So it didn't drop you guys too bad, but poor Frank, on the other hand, got one shot by a ghoul after getting like some minor damage.
I know it took him
Yeah.
full.
The
He might have had 1 damage on him,
yeah,
but it
he had a bit of
literally hit him for more health than he had.
yes, it did. And then you have I like the fact that healing in this game isn't something that's trivial. Damage is something you actually need to consider. It's not like taking 1 damage is going to cripple you. But even now that you're leveled up and you have more health than you did before, it's not a simple case of, yeah, guys, I took almost all my health and damage. I'll take a small nap over in the corner and recover all my HP. Like that's not how that works. You need to take long rests. You need to take days. And the fact of the matter is, it's not like you have forever. Things will still progress and time will pass and problems will get worse. So if you actually have to make the choice for healing, do you actually want to stick around and just wait for like hours and possibly days to try and get all that health back? Do you have any connections to people who can heal you so you can get better quicker? Or are you just kind of have to wait around while bad things happen? Because your healing rate can and the skills you've got for it can get you up in, I think, like 3-4 days. Like even if you're really bad off,
That's it.
most of you have skills.
Unless you're a rogue, 2 days. Ha 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 ha.
So yeah, like you can recover over time, but it actually does take a while, as opposed to say D&D, where you can take 8 hours of rest and bam, all your hit points back. Like that doesn't add a lot of weight to things.
Oh
So
my god, my cat just opened my door. Sorry.
no, it's fine. It's fine.
I'll be right back.
They know who you are, Kai. But yes, so like, altogether, it feels very well fleshed out. The horror and the insanity and corruption isn't cool yet, but I know it's gonna be. So I'm just waiting for it to get better. And I already know it will be better shortly. And yeah, I think Arlie put it best in the flavor is very nice, like as opposed to just the world feels very. It does feel dark, and it does feel like everything has weight and consequence, as opposed to just, well, you can kind of get away with whatever. Doesn't really matter. That's one thing I always want in any roleplay is consequence. Not necessarily like, aha, everything you do will fuck you, but everything you do will mean something. Like dead, like not like you scratch your nose, but you punch a guard in the face because he's like a guard's abusing somebody. They're kicking Frank in the ribs repeatedly. If that were Barovia, if that were D&D, you could run up and chop that guard's face off, and there'd be plenty of ways you could get away with it. In this case, well, if even one random person around you sees you like even punch the guard, you could be in serious trouble. Why? Because the guards say so. Not to say you couldn't do that in other games, but this case, not to say that you can't do that in other games, but this game actually encourages it and like puts it forth and says this is what should happen. Is like the world is reactive and things are not always going in your favor. And when things go bad, they go bad very quickly. And that's basically my thoughts, aside from all the other things I already said.
Yeah, I think that's all then been said and done. So, with that, this has been, I guess, the inaugural episode of Table Talk. We will have more of these as we progress through Shadows of the Demon Lord, and if we tackle different campaigns that are eventually posted on the YouTube, we will try and commentate on our process of going through them, both for Shadows of the Demon Lord stuff, the modules, random adventure stuff. I mean, I imagine the future ones will be shorter, unless we dabble one day in some of the homebrew things that Sasha has been working on in the background, which we can touch on that later. But yeah, for now, if you have any comments either about the game, this episode, the player stuff, if you want to know more about the backgrounds of the characters, or just have questions for the players themselves, leave a note in the comment and we can see about getting to it on the next episode of Table Talk. In the meantime, this has been Arlyeon and the rest of us, if y'all want to chime in.
What up?
Watch the Twitch. Join my cult. Also I
Also,
did a
join the
paint of
Discord.
Kai. Yeah, join the Discord.
Link in the description below.
Ham ham.
The enthusiasm's so real. Also, go check out Walking Virus Gaming, because he's a bro, and also here.
Oh,
I did a speed paint of Kai. If people want me to do paints of other characters, I could do that at some point when I'm not dying.
Message in the comments, seriously. Yeah. And yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, chaos, muddling back and forth, and we'll catch you folks next time. Oh, right, and if you want to see more of this, be it the tabletop, the conversations, the indie gaming, or what have you, hit the subscribe button and the bell right adjacent to it to get more notifications. See you next time, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.